Hello guys, it's LaserBeast here with a Mechagon Mythic Plus Workshop Season 4 Shadowlands guide. Bit of a mouthful. So let's dive in. So to get there quickly, take the portal next to the Flight Master in ORBS. Now once you're inside, you start off in a little Colosseum bit, and the first trash pack you basically just need to avoid the saw blades and buzzsaws that move around the room, so there's the environmental obstacles to avoid. And with the actual trash mobs themselves, interrupt the bomb TONK'S casts of Detonate to avoid high AoE damage to your party. Avoid the Strider TONK'S flying peck ability, so just look out for the blue swirl under your feet and move out of it, and then dodge the rocket barrage cast by the rocket TONK'S. Stun them to stop the cast going off if you like. Once the trash is dead, there's a bit of roleplay and the boss will start, so bear in mind that these guys don't share a health pool and they don't need to die at the same time either. It's recommended to kill the No Mercy for You boss first. So whilst the DPS focus on taking No Mercy for You down, the tank will need to focus mainly on the other boss, the Platinum Pummeler. Now take note of the 4 piston smashers located around the room. If you go underneath these, what they're going to do is activate and then slam down on the ground after a few seconds. What the tank needs to do is take the Platinum Pummeler over to 3 of these, and when the boss gets hit by the hammer, it's going to remove a stack of its platinum plating buff. When you get a successful hit on this, and try not to get hit by it yourself, the piston smasher will become deactivated, so then move on to the next one. Now before the first stack of the boss's buff is removed, the tank needs to keep on taunting it, as it's probably likely that your healer's going to get aggro just through healing you, because the boss is going to keep taking 99% reduced damage until that first stack is gone. So if you're the healer, just make sure you keep your distance just in case you do get aggro. Every now and then the pummeler will cast Whirling Edge, which is just going to be like a whirlwind, and he's going to spin around and move around briefly in melee range, so just avoid this and also dodge the mines that he drops as well. As for the No Mercy for You boss, what he's going to do is charge around the room using maximum thrust, so when he casts this, just move out of his path to avoid being hit. When he hits the wall, he is going to be stunned for 10 seconds, so make the most of that time. He will also target a random player and chase after them, casting Vent Jets, which causes high AoE damage to everyone for 10 seconds. So healers beware of this, and party you can use some defensives as well. Don't stand in front of the boss, as you'll take even more damage, and if you are the target, just try not to kite him into your group, and try not to kite it over to your tank if they're dealing with the Platinum Pummeler. You'll still need to dodge all the traps around the room as you do this, but once this is all done, the boss will go down quite nicely. Then you're going to fall through the floor and onto the next bits of trash. So for the waste processing units, the big guys, what you're going to need to avoid is the frontal cone ability, Process Waste. So just move out of that when they do cast that. They will turn around and then start casting it, so look where they're facing. And also move out of the range of their Mega Drill ability where possible. The dog NPCs aren't that dangerous, they're just going to cast Flaming Refuse randomly at your party, which deals ticking damage, and mainly just going to melee your tank, so they're not that bad. The other big thing to be aware of is the Living Waste. Now these, when they get to 1 HP, they're going to cast Volatile Waste, which deals massive damage to your whole group. You can move out of line of sight of this completely, so usually the tactic is to group them all together, kill them at the same time, and then hide behind one of the big pipes or use some sort of immunity to totally negate the damage from this. Now the next boss is fairly straightforward as long as you follow these mechanics. So cubes are going to fall from the sky, which will hurt you if they land on you and knock you back, so watch out for the shadows and don't be underneath them when they fall. Move away from the cubes when they do land, as if these get hit by any of Kujo's abilities, they're going to heat up. If they get hit twice by any of the abilities, then they're going to explode and deal big damage to your group. You need to keep these cubes up and alive because you have to hide behind them when Kujo casts Venting Flames. This is a channeled high damage spell to anyone in line of sight, so there's nowhere else to hide in the room apart from behind these cubes. So don't stand on the cubes, and if there aren't any available when he casts Venting Flames, it's going to be a wipe. Venting Flames will destroy the cube that you're currently behind, but it's fine because there'll be another one for the next time. So try and stay a little bit spread out just to avoid big damage from when he casts the charge where he goes to multiple people. And as mentioned, don't stand on the cubes, but don't go too far away from the cubes, especially if you're a class with low mobility, because you're going to need to get behind them quickly when he casts Venting Flames. Healer, you'll want to make sure that you dispel Blazing Chomp on your tank. It deals big damage and it's a dot, so try and dispel it immediately before even the first tick of damage goes off. You've got a couple of seconds to respond to that one. And that's it for that boss. Now you're going to move up to the Machinist Garden area, so head up the conveyor belt, making sure to avoid the flame jets as you go. Use movement speed abilities here and things such as Life Grip to help you group, or you could use a Venthyr Door of Shadows. When the first player gets to the top, you can press the button to disable the flame jets, making it easy for the rest of the party, and try and walk on the edges as you won't get pushed back, but just be careful. Then in the next bit you've got 3 waves of enemies to deal with, so the first one are the TONK'S. Now these cast Giga Wallop, which deals chain damage to nearby enemies, so spread a little bit if you can, but really watch out for them trying to activate the anti-personnel SQUIRRELs, as this can do massive damage. If you stun the squirrel, it will just despawn, so try your best to do this. The guard mobs in these packs are relatively simple to deal with though. In the next waves you'll have the defense bot MK1, now these just apply a dot that can be dispelled, but the MK3s will also cast Short Out, dealing AoE damage, so watch out for that. When it gets to low health, it will also put a shield in itself, so you can either purge this off if your group's got one, or just DPS through it. Once killed, the Blastertron will then spawn. So you need to avoid Sonic Pulse that it's going to cast in its front in a cone, and if you get hit by this you will get silenced for 8 seconds. It's also going to launch some rockets which just need to be avoided, and then it's going to cast Capacitor Discharge, and what this does is makes most of the room a dangerous area, so you need to find the bit that isn't in blue and get into that bit as quickly as you can. It does big damage, and he's going to cast this a few times in succession, should just keep on focusing on getting onto the safe zone each time. Maybe use some abilities like Stampede and Roar here to help you group out, or any other movement cooldowns. And then next you've got the stealth section, so if you enter the circle of a detector bot here, you're going to get stunned and teleported back to the start. When there aren't any safe spots to sneak through, what you can do is use the steam vents and wait for the bots to pass and then just keep on going. Again, it's just a good idea to take this steady, don't rush, can avoid wasting time. Once you're through that section, there's a couple of new mobs to deal with, so you've got defenders that aren't that deadly, they're more just a problem for your tank as they cast a bleed that can stack, but the mechanics need to be interrupted when they cast Overclock, and then they also cast a spell called Tune Up. The first ability, Overclock, is a heroism effect for them, and the Tune Up is a 10% heal every 2 seconds, so it's a hot, so save the kicks for these guys. And then we have the third boss, the Garden boss, so there's a lot of traps here to avoid again. Some of them are cast by the boss and come from him, and some of them are cast from the room itself. When the boss gets to 100 energy, he's going to cast Hidden Flame Cannon, which comes from the centre of the room and it makes 3 lines that then rotate around. If you stand in the line, you're going to get 1 stack of a nasty dot, which will stack multiple times if you go in the line again, so try your best to stay in the section that you're in when it goes off and just move around the room with it. Adds called Inconspicuous Plants will also spawn that need to be killed to stop their abilities going off. When they die, they're going to become oil fountains, and when the boss casts flame jets again, when the flames go over these oil jets, they're going to become roaring flames, so they're going to put AoE patches on the floor that you'll also need to be aware of and dodge. The boss also has an ability called Discombobulator, which makes a blue swirl on the ground that you're going to need to move out of. If you don't, you're going to be disorientated for 9 seconds, but this disorientate can be dispelled. It's deadly if this hits the tank because the boss is then going to aggro onto somebody else, so be really careful. And finally, the boss will chuck out some spinning gears that do damage if they pass through you, so avoid them. They're called the self-trimming hedges, so these just move around the room, bouncing off the walls, and will be present for the duration of the fight. So the longer the fight goes on for, the more of these you're going to have to deal with. Once the boss is down, you're just going to have to kill the 2 spider tanks, and their main ability to be aware of is the frontal cone called Pulse Blast, so this is going to silence anybody that hits, so avoid that. And then you get to take a nice little ride on the old transport there. Once you've taken the transport, the trash up this ramp is the same as all the trash that you face in the rest of the dungeon, so deal with them accordingly. If you've already reached trash count for the dungeon though, this is a good place to invis pot skip through, or use a rogue shroud. So now you've made it to the final boss, King Mechagon, which is a 2-phase fight. At the start of the fight, he's going to summon 4 plasma orbs, so watch where these go and don't stand on them. They'll hurt you and knock you back if you do. When King Mechagon casts Recalibrate, these orbs are going to move in the direction of the arrow that they have underneath them, so watch where the arrows are facing and move out of the path that they're going to travel in, being especially careful not to be in the area where they're going to land, as that hurts a lot. The boss is going to be casting Pulse Blast at the tank, which deals magic damage, so regular mitigation won't be working as well here, so healer, just be careful, your tank might need a bit more healing. When he casts Giga Zap, he's going to charge towards the target and deal massive damage, also leaving a 12-second debuff on them, which will cause the damage taken from the ability to be increased by 100%, but this doesn't really matter that much in this phase, just be aware of it. In phase 1, he also casts Cutting Beam, where he's going to take off in the air and then channel AoE damage to your whole group, but if anybody stands directly underneath him, this damage can be fatal. So just make sure you keep running off and don't kite this over anybody if someone's not paying attention. He doesn't move that fast, so it's not that hard to avoid. Once you kill his mech, he's then going to stun everybody and then go and get into his big daddy Omega Buster. So the plasma orbs from phase 1, you still need to be aware of those and watch out for the cast of Recalibrate, it just works the same, but the boss is going to be tanked like a normal boss here. So Giga Zap takes on a bit of a new form here, so what it's going to do is show you a large line on the floor where it's going to fire. It's still going to target one person, but remember this leaves a stacking debuff on you, so you need to make sure that you get hit by this as few times as possible, and use immunities or defensives if you're going to get hit by this a 2nd or 3rd time. So because it casts a big line on the floor, it's quite easy for everyone else to avoid. The best strategy is to have the person that's going to be hit by Giga Zap stand still, so everyone can then easily move out of the line. He's going to cast this 3 times in succession, one after each other, so be alert and be ready to move a lot, and if this targets you, remember to stay still. And the last mechanic to be aware of is where he's going to throw his Magneto arm into the room, which is going to drag everybody towards it, dealing AoE damage which is higher the closer you are to the arm. So again, movement abilities can be very useful here. The arm is also going to pull the plasma orbs towards it, so they're going to do damage to you if you get too close as well. So try and be aware of where these are in relation to where the Magneto arm lands, so you can try and predict where the safest spots are going to be, if you can. Once you kill the big mech, King Mechagon is going to land on a platform. At this point, he's really not dangerous, just finish him off quickly, and then that, my friend, is the dungeon complete, so well done. So there we go, guys. I hope you have enjoyed that guide, and remember, I've got all the other guides for the other Season 4 Mythic Plus dungeons available if you want a quick refresher on those as well. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Please do leave a like if you did enjoy the video, and consider subscribing to the channel for more guides like this going forward. We're going to have lots of Dragonflight content in the future, and you can find all the other guides in the playlist. Thanks, guys. I've been LaserBeast, and I'll catch you next time. Have a great day. Cheers.